there's another question that we are asking this evening. Thank you. What is the rarest of rare crime? Does raping a doctor, brutally assaulting her, and then strangulating her fall in that category or not? Now, to many, the answer is obvious. But a court in Sialda Court has ruled that what happened to the young doctor at RG Kar Hospital does not fall in the rarest of rare category, and therefore the court has given Sanjay Roy, the rapist and the murderer, a life term. Now, I just want to recall what happened on the intervening night of August 9th and 10th. The 31-year-old doctor was on duty. She was not just brutally raped and murdered by the man on your screen, Sanjay Roy. He made sure that she struggled for every single breath. He throttled her. He strangulated her. He broke her thyroid cartilage. She was bleeding from both eyes, mouth, and her private parts. In fact, there were injuries on her belly, on her lips, on her fingers, and her left leg. The girl's parents, the doctors in West Bengal, most common citizens were expecting death to be handed to Sanjay Roy today by the court, but the court decided otherwise. But why did the court come to this conclusion? That this is not a rarest of rare crimes, that he should not be given death, he should be given life. Well, in the judge's own words, and he says in the judgment, the measure of a civil society lies not in its ability to exact revenge, but in its capacity to reform, rehabilitate, and ultimately heal. Now, the victim's family, who were present in court, with folded hands, pleaded that they didn't want the 17 lakh rupee compensation that was offered to them, but they wanted justice for their daughter. They wanted her rapist and murderer to be hanged. But the judge said he couldn't do anything because this compensation is statutory. Ladies and gentlemen, for Devi's parents, or for any parent, it's never about the money. You just want the culprit to get the maximum punishment, in fact, capital punishment, so that a precedent can be set and that men like Sanjay Roy will think twice before committing a crime that they did. Is 17 lakh rupees the value of rape and murder in this country? Now, the verdict today was met with shock in many quarters. West Bengal's Chief Minister, Mamata Banerjee, was first of the block, saying that justice was denied to the doctor today. She then went on to blame the CBI for a shoddy investigation. Interestingly, the judge has pointed fingers at the investigation of Mamata's own police force, that's the Kolkata police in the case, saying they need to be better trained.
আরজি করে রায় নিয়ে কিন্তু আমি যেহেতু হেলিতে ছিলাম বলে আমি ডিটেইলসটা এখনো শুনিনি তো আপনাদের কাছ থেকে শুনলাম যে এটা নাকি যাবজ্জীবন দেওয়া হয়েছে এটা আপনাদের কাছ থেকে প্রথম আমি শুনলাম আমার রিঅ্যাকশন ইজ ভেরি ক্লিয়ার আমরা প্রথম দিন থেকে ফাঁসির দাবি করে এসেছিলাম আমি এই কথা বলছি যে আমি তো ডিটেইলস কাগজপত্র দেখিনি বাট আই এম নট স্যাটিসফাইড
फांसी का सजा तो मिलना ही चाहिए संजय राय को, लेकिन हम लोग खुश नहीं है। हम लोग इस इन्वेस्टिगेशन से खुश नहीं है। सीबीआई को सप्लीमेंट्री चार्जशीट देना पड़ेगा। और कौन कौन है संजय राय के साथ थे? आज मुख्यमंत्री का पुलिस, मुख्यमंत्री का प्रशासन, जो सीबीआई बोला कि एविडेंस टैंपर हुआ है, संजय राय को बचाने के लिए टैंपर किया है, ऐसा तो नहीं हो सकता। शाम को 6 बजे के बाद पोस्टमार्टम हुआ संजय राय को बचाने के लिए, ऐसा तो नहीं हो सकता। शमशान में जल्दबाजी करके बॉडी को जलाया गया संजय राय को बचाने के लिए, नहीं हो सकता है। अभया का माताजी पिताजी को घूस दिया गया, जो है उसको बोलिए पहले उनका नाम लिखे तभी पूरा होगा, अभी नहीं हुआ।
There's news just coming in. Mamata Banerjee has in fact just tweeted. She's saying that her administration will now be approaching the High Court seeking a death penalty for Sanjay Roy. This tweet has just come in about 20 minutes ago. Mamata Banerjee is reiterating her stand that this crime falls in the rarest of rare categories, and Sanjay Roy, she says, must be given capital punishment. She's just tweeted to say that her administration will be approaching the High Court to demand capital punishment, and it will appeal against today's court verdict. My guest this evening, Asif Ansari, is a political analyst. Joining us on the broadcast, Lalita Kumara Mangalam, former chairperson of the NCW. Sanjay Hegde is a senior advocate joining us. And Dr. Sanjeev Bagai is chairperson of the Nephron Clinic, joining us on the broadcast as well. Sanjay Hegde, since you're the lawyer here, I want to read out what exactly the judge has said. The judge has said that this doesn't fall under the rarest of rare cases. And I'm just quoting verbatim what the judgment says. It says, in the realm of modern justice, we must rise above the primitive instinct of an eye for an eye, or a tooth for a tooth, or nail for a nail, or a life for a life. Our duty is not to match brutality with brutality, but to elevate humanity through wisdom, compassion, and a deeper understanding of justice. The measure of a civilized society lies not in its ability to exact revenge, but in its capacity to reform, rehabilitate, and ultimately heal. Great sentiment, great thought. I'm wondering if this sentiment and this thought would hold if something like this happened to a daughter in your own family. I'm asking you whether you think this case fell in the rarest of rare categories, and if Sanjay Roy should have got the death sentence.
Let me tell you, you're talking to somebody who got about 8 death sentences from the Supreme Court when I used to prosecute for the state of Karnataka. And I'm very thankful to the Supreme Court that none of those ultimately got executed. I have my doubts, grave doubts on the death penalty. When you say rarest of rare, the entire sentence in Bachchan Singh's judgment said, the rarest of rare cases where the lesser alternative is unquestionably foreclosed. I also appeared in a case in the Supreme Court called Swami Shraddhananda, which laid down as an alternative to the death penalty, you could keep a person in prison for the rest of his life. That was a case where a man buried his wife alive after giving her sleeping pills. That was also not held to be rarest of, it was held to be a rare case, but not the rarest of rare, and therefore the sentence was devised that way. Now that life for the rest of your life has now come in the new Bharatiya Nyaya Samhita, where section 64(2)(e) says that if a staff of a hospital rapes a woman in a hospital and all that, then you can have life for the rest of your life. That, forgive my digressing a little, but Ram Jethmalani, when he heard the Shraddhananda verdict, said, you have done a horrible, cruel thing, keeping a man in prison with no hope of ever getting out. Ram Jethmalani said that left to himself, he would have preferred a hanging, which was quicker. So listen, so while I do understand the sentiment that life demands a life, there are some times that the law says that, no, we have it on our statute book. Supposing you had a Kasab, and keeping him indefinitely in jail for the rest of his life would invite attempts from across the border. Then for those cases, you have to give him death and execute the person. But in many other cases, you do not do that. So what is rarest of rare is often the judicial calculus. This judge says no. People have gone in appeal to the High Court. Let's see what the High Court or the Supreme Court ultimately holds. But it is very difficult in India, as the law currently stands, to have a death sentence which is taken to execution. Nirbhaya was a rare exception. I appeared in that also.
Okay, Lalita Kumaramangalam, do you agree with what Sanjay Hegde is saying, that to live your life, to live the rest of your life, and Sanjay Roy has a long life to live, uh, is far worse than, being hanged? That's just a moment's thing, and it's done and over with. Do you agree with that? Because the parents don't agree with it. They don't see any they don't see any justice or closure in this. What they see now is appeal pe appeal, tariq pe tariq, High Court, Supreme Court, review bench, and 20 other things before they can get even a semblance of justice.
Uh, um, Shreya, Mr. Hegde is not to be faulted. He's spoken as a lawyer. From the legal point of view, perhaps what he says is perfectly right, that if it is life without parole, but if he is allowed bail, then this man, I'm sorry to say this so bluntly, but I don't think the Honorable Judge has given any sort of justice to the girl's parents. If it is life in jail with bail, then he can come out in bail after a particular number of years, I suppose. Now, comparing the Nirbhaya case to this is really pointless because of the way the entire investigation took place. In this case, one of the biggest grouses of the parents is that evidence was not only tampered with by the state government, but probably, got rid of also. Remember, the CBI was brought in only after 13 days. It was the local police that was held responsible, even by all those hundreds of doctors and the public in West Bengal. If you remember, it took Mamta almost 3 weeks to even go and meet the people. Now she's, of course, doing all of this, I don't know whether to call it drama or not, about how she wants the death penalty, etc. But, I have heard people even say this, and I'm repeating it. I'm not saying this is my suspicion, but it sounds very eerie, that part of the reason why perhaps the state government wants the death penalty is because they do not want this chap to start singing like a canary. And other truths, an inconvenient truth, should not come out against the state government. I don't know how true or false this is, but this is a feeling of a large section of people in Calcutta. I have relatives in Calcutta, first cousins, etc., who have told me this, that, politics has messed up the question of safety in this country, and look at the latest of what happened in West Bengal. Secondly, I don't know how you call this not the rarest of rare, because the brutality with which this girl was killed, it was not just rape, and not just rape and murder. It was the brutality of the murder that really shocked everybody in this country and got us talking again the same way that poor Nirbhaya was treated. Nirbhaya's mother, it took enormous courage to go through that 10 years and get the death penalty. I don't know if the death penalty should be given to this chap or not. As a mother, I would say yes, without question. But the law itself, as Mr. Hegde said, has its limitations.
Okay, I'm going to circle back to the question of politics and what Mamta Banerjee is saying, and in turn what the judge today has said about Mamta Banerjee's police in just a bit. But before I do that, Dr. Sanjeev Bagai, we have Sanjay Hegde who's spoken as a lawyer. We have Lalita Kumaramangalam who's spoken as a women's rights activist, as a doctor, as a common citizen, who has seen this case since August, who has felt the pain of what happened to that young doctor on duty. Do you feel let down today? Because all of us were expecting, it was a given. All of us thought this will be a death sentence. There is no other way to go. And then suddenly we are told at about 1 o'clock that the court is breaking for lunch because it needs to deliberate on the judgment. And at 2:45, when it reconvenes today, we find out that no, the judge has decided this is not rarest of rare. He has decided that the man will be given a life sentence, not a death sentence. Does this feel like justice to you? Because to many it doesn't.
Good evening, and we have a lot of eminent panelists and lawyers on panel. But I've been disappointed and hurt right from day one. We didn't learn anything from Nirbhaya, and from this what we've learned is that the cost of a doctor who's doing her postgraduate degree, unarmed, vulnerable, being raped or gang raped, and then brutally killed and savagely murdered, nothing short of that, the cost is just 17 lakhs. Probably she would have earned that in the first 6 months of her practice once she has started. It's terrible. But going away from this, look at the way the barbaric savage act was conducted. The evidence was tampered. I'm coming to very, very important points why I'm disappointed. The crime scene was not sanitized. The real issue is if on human tissue that includes hair, cells, fingerprints, other kind of sera, semen, if the crime scene is altered, tampered, or destroyed, CBI or no CBI, no human being on earth can actually get conclusive evidence. You have handed over the case to CBI, not you as you, but the West Bengal government have handed over the case after 5 or 10 days. That's sufficient time. Couple of hours is enough to wipe out evidence. Then you have not even bothered a wink, but transferred the MS of the hospital to another center. Why is that gentleman not being terminated permanently? What has happened to the police commissioner? There was a wall being created in the adjoining room. Is this bizarre or what? Right there next to the crime scene. Then thousands of people, hundreds of people come and vandalize the crime scene. And they say it's a mob. The doctors were threatened. This is all a cover-up. The real fact of the matter is that whether, I think the law will speak itself much better than me, whether it's a rarest of rare or not, but as a common citizen, as a person, as a doctor, as a professional, I think this is the rarest of rare. But going forward, look at what has happened even after the Supreme Court has said that in the 30 years, the Honorable Chief Justice of India has said, I have never seen such a kind of mess being created in the investigation. This is not a sole person responsible. This person who was a serial offender, a pornography expert, a sexual offender, was a police volunteer. He's walking in and out of the hospital at 2 a.m. without any restrictions. What have we done to improve the services now? Are we waiting for another girl to be murdered and gang raped and thrown away? They have conducted an autopsy even without the CBI coming in. They have said first it's a suicide. See the pain of the family. Then they convert it into a rape. Then they say that the girl is already dead. Can someone wear the parents' shoes for 5 minutes? As a father, what would I feel if that daughter was mine?
No, I agree with you there. And therefore, Asif Ansari, no one is quite taking at face value what Mamata Banerjee is saying. She's saying all the right things. She says, we've been demanding a death penalty for this man. We believe this is rarest of rare. We believe, and therefore we will be approaching the High Court. The parents will be approaching the High Court only. The state government doesn't need to do it, but good if the state government is also doing it. But please look at what the court today has said about your own police force. Can I just read it out for you, Asif Ansari, before you answer? As the Commissioner of Police, Kolkata is the highest administrative authority. I think that this type of illegal, indifferent acts of the police personnel should be tackled by him in a very strict way so that no one can escape. And I also think that proper training should be given to officers regarding investigations, especially in cases where it rests upon circumstantial, electronic and scientific evidence. Asif Ansari, essentially the court is also saying in a way that this man has not got death because the Kolkata police, which was the first investigator in this case, completely botched up. The CBI only came in 7 days later.
Well, Shreya, I must say, before I start, that the case was there for only 2 days in the hand of Kolkata police. Now, who was criticizing the Kolkata police, even the Mamata Banerjee have said, if it would be in the hand of Kolkata police, the verdict could be a very different cases because he is not showing the confidence on the CBI. Now, people who are really criticizing, now they're criticizing because the CBI could not make a death penalty out of their investigation. Now, the both side will be with a different political people. It's very difficult to please people. It is about the judiciary who has given the verdict, and judiciary will be take a different motion. Well, there is a chances and there is a possibility to appeal in a higher court. Even the Mamata Banerjee as a government said that she is going to appeal in a higher court for the death penalty. There are some human rights activists who does not endorse the capital punishment, but the heinous act which this Sanjay Roy has committed, he deserves to be hanged till death. This might be the announcement of his crime.
अरे अंसारी
But
साहब,
what the face value you are not talking about.
अंसारी साहब, सवाल तो मैंने आपसे कुछ और किया. मैंने आपसे कुछ और किया है. सवाल मैं आपसे ये कर रही हूँ that the court, I've just read out what the judge has said. The court is almost saying that the Kolkata police messed up, which is why the CBI was not able to present a case where they could give this man the death sentence.
Yeah,
I've just
if the
read out
court
what the
has
judge has said.
no. If the no, I got your question. I'm telling if the court has given any strict statement to the Kolkata police, let get introspect. Let there might be a self introspection. Mamata Banerjee should look into a type of practice which should be given to the police, where the any kind of such kind of incident should not happen in the future. If we'll see in a 54 days time, the Hooghly session court have given a death penalty to a person. That is in Bengal. That is in Bengal, central government. It's only a Bengal who has given the execution. How they have carried out the thing in 54 days, the Hooghly court has given a death penalty for a rape convict to a minor, which has been done. If there are some kind of flaws are there are some kind of fallacies were there, how it was washed up and it could not be taken in a proper way. Let get this correctional thing be happened. But why it has been politicized? Now the people are saying the CBI has not done, the BJPs are telling that the CBI has not done a good job. Why? Because it is a central agency. It is run by the central agency. Now you have given, it was
No,
unprecedented in a
Mr.
three
Ansari,
times, in
it's
a
a
3 day
strange
time.
situation.
It's a strange
No,
situation.
it's
In
a
a
strange
three
situation in
days
West
time,
Bengal where the TMC
when
and the
Mamata
BJP don't
Banerjee,
agree on
Shreya,
anything. 1 minute. You know, in the state of West Bengal, एक minute, in the state of West Bengal, the TMC and the BJP don't agree on anything. Anything. In this case, both of them agree that the CBI, Lalita Kumaramangalam, has failed in its duty. So when the Chief Minister of West Bengal says, we believe what has happened today is wrong and we are approaching the court, then should all of us back
keeping
her
the
instead of
politics
questioning
aside,
her police force
Mamata
in the way they
Banerjee,
bust up?
Shreya, Mamata Banerjee is keeping the politics aside, putting everything aside. She
No,
want
no, no. She's not keeping
in a
politics aside.
humanity ground. Yeah, keep the
No, 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 no,
politics
no, no, no,
aside.
no, no, no,
What
no. She is
CBI
not
has done,
keeping
what
politics
If he
Kolkata
aside.
allows
police
me
has
to
done.
talk, I will.
Yeah, what the police has done now, she
Lal-
appeal that the
ठीक
crime
है,
which Sanjay Roy has committed, he deserved
ठीक है.
a death penalty. That is simple and a state vivid condition she had
ललिता
said.
कुमार
And
मंगलम.
she has showed her anguish over the
Okay.
judgment because you
हो
cannot
गया,
go
हो
above
गया.
the judiciary. Only your
हो गया, हो
reluctance
गया.
you can show on the judgment,
Can we
but you
let him
cannot
give answers,
override the
please?
statement.
Mr. Ansari, okay, हो गया. I've got your sentiment. Lalita, please quickly go respond. I have a question with Sanjay Hegde after that.
Yeah, Shreya, the point here is not whether politics has been played or not. The fact is more about it's very apparent to everybody, even those who perhaps may not be, for whatever reason they may have, able to talk about this so openly on national television, that there was a massive either cover up or destruction of evidence. Now, ours is an evidence based legal system. The CBI was not the organization or the department that was tasked with collecting the initial evidence. Let's not forget that that poor young girl's body was not, her parents were not allowed to see it for more than 15 hours after she died. Initially, they called it a suicide. Then they broke a wall. Then they allowed a mob to go in. It takes hardly 15 minutes to destroy crucial evidence. And 2 days is more than enough, is like a lifetime when it comes to destroying evidence. Now, who destroyed, why destroyed, all of that, it's too late now for us to even talk about it. But the fact is there was destruction of evidence. Whatever may be Mamata's stand today, it is not an apolitical stand. Let's leave even that aside. There is no need for her, as you said, to ask for the death penalty. The girl's parents are themselves going to ask for it. Now it's just a political drama being played out. In the case, the politics that's going on within the state, somebody has to be found fault with. So the CBI is being found fault with. The CBI could only present the evidence that it was given. By the time they were brought into the case, there was no additional evidence to collect. And much of the initial evidence was probably destroyed, was definitely destroyed. What was that evidence? Nobody will ever know. But in this case, I mean, for the West Bengal, for this gentleman, Mr. Ansari, to claim credit saying that 54 days, that's to the credit of the local court, not West Bengal, not the government, not any political party there. That is kudos to that local court, that judge. I may disagree with the judge saying that he should have asked, he should have given the death penalty. But let's also not forget, Shreya, that in any case, whether it was the man who's been convicted or the girl's parents, they would be appealed. First to the High Court, then trial court, as you say. I mean, then they will go to the Supreme Court, then again to the review petition, etc., etc. So it's going to drag on. This girl's parents have also showed enough courage by saying that we are willing to wait for justice. But as I said very bluntly, whatever may be the legal system, as a mother, as a woman, I wish that this guy had been given the death penalty.
You know, the wait for justice in India is very long, Sanjay Hegde. Therefore, I ask you this question. You will understand why most of us feel let down by today's judgment. No one can question the court. We know that. No one wants a court notice. We can't question what the court does, but we can express how we are feeling, and most of us are feeling let down. I want to quickly ask you something, and correct me if I'm wrong, Sanjay Hegde. Under Indian law, if a judge sees that there is a capacity for someone to reform, that's another reason why a death sentence is not given to that person. Does that hold true in this case as well, that apart from the fact that maybe the judge didn't have the sort of evidence that he needed to send him to a death sentence or send him to the gallows, he also saw some scope of reform? Because, I mean, I'm just looking at Sanjay Roy's history. I'm looking at the fact that at least 2 of his wives have gone to the police and complained against him for perverse sexual acts, and then he does what he does to that young doctor at RG Kar. Where is the scope of reform for a person like this, if that was a consideration?
See, firstly, the court has found enough evidence beyond all reasonable doubt to convict him. Therefore, irrespective of the flaws in the evidence, there is still enough evidence to totally convict him. Sentencing is not a matter of evidence. Sentencing is a matter of application of law. The Supreme Court has said that you have to draw up a list of all the aggravating factors which tend to awarding the death penalty, and all the mitigating factors which say that possibly this man should not be given a death penalty. That kind of balance sheet has to be drawn. And in this case, what you said about what the wives had complained, I do not know whether that was brought on record by the prosecution. The prosecution was also of the CBI. And whether that was put in the list of aggravating factors or not. So the judge would have, in his judicial calculus, said, look, he is young. There are no previous convictions. This has happened. Should I give him the death penalty? Does it fall within the rarest of rare, where a lesser option is unquestionably foreclosed? Therefore, the judge has now come to the conclusion that life for the rest of your life seems is not foreclosed, and therefore I will not give the death penalty. That seems to be the logic which would have gone into the judicial calculus.
Okay, we'll leave it there for the moment. As I said, everyone has a view on what has happened in Sialda today. Everyone has a right to have a view as well. So we'll leave it there. Sanjay Hegde, thank you very much for joining us. Dr. Bagai, thank you very much. Lalita Kumaramangalam and Asif Ansari, thank you very much for joining us as well. Ladies and gentlemen, on that note, I'm stepping into a quick break on the show. Up next, the countdown has begun to the big Trump inauguration. That's up in just a bit. Do stay with us.